Once you begin to recognize how God speaks within your heart, the next question naturally arises: how do I actually make a decision? It is one thing to feel inner movements of consolation and desolation, but another to translate them into clear, concrete action. Saint Ignatius of Loyola knew this tension deeply. He struggled between holy desires, often unsure which one was truly God's will. Over time, he developed a spiritual method to help anyone make decisions that align with divine wisdom rather than human impulse. The first thing Ignatius teaches is that discernment is not about finding a perfect, risk-free path. It is about choosing the good with freedom and trust. God rarely gives absolute certainty before we act. What he offers instead is enough light to take the next step. Ignatius wants us to move forward in faith, not paralyzed by fear of mistakes. He begins by identifying 3 different times or situations in which discernment can happen. The first time is when God gives clarity immediately. Sometimes, a grace comes with such force that the soul knows, beyond doubt, what it must do. It is not an emotion or fantasy, but a conviction that brings peace and humility. Think of St. Paul after his encounter on the road to Damascus. The call was direct and undeniable. In such cases, Ignatius says, there is no need for analysis. The soul simply obeys. The second time of discernment is when the soul experiences distinct movements of consolation and desolation. Here, God's will is discovered by observing which interior movement draws us closer to Him. The key is to listen attentively and note how peace endures or fades. This stage requires patience, because feelings can shift rapidly. Ignatius advises that we should not rush. Let time clarify the pattern. The third time is when the soul is not moved strongly in either direction. No clear consolation, no strong desolation, only calm reason. Here, Ignatius invites us to use our intellect, enlightened by faith. He proposes powerful methods to reach a decision when peace is not immediately evident. The first is what he calls weighing reasons on both sides. You take a sheet of paper and list the advantages and disadvantages of each option, but you do this in prayer, in the presence of God. You ask yourself, which choice better serves the end for which I was created, to praise, reverence, and serve God. You weigh not what brings you more comfort or success, but what leads you closer to love. Then you pray for light, that God may move your heart toward the greater good. The second method is imaginative. Ignatius invites you to place yourself before God as if you were at the moment of death, looking back on your life. From that perspective, which choice would you wish to have made? Which one would give you peace in the presence of God? Or again, imagine advising another person who is in your situation. What would you tell them to do for the glory of God? These exercises cut through the noise of fear and self-interest, allowing grace to speak more freely. What is striking about these methods is how practical they are. Ignatius does not separate reason and prayer. He unites them. He insists that discernment involves both the head and the heart. We think, reflect, imagine, and feel, all under the gentle gaze of God. It is not an abstract formula, but a living dialogue. Ignatius also warns against 2 major traps when making decisions. The first is indecision, which hides behind endless reflection. Some people never act because they fear choosing wrongly. But Ignatius says that once peace is reached, even if only partial, we must act. God blesses trust more than hesitation. The second trap is impulsiveness, acting too quickly, driven by emotion or external pressure, often leads to regret. True discernment takes time, but not paralysis. It moves at the pace of grace, deliberate, calm, confident. Once a decision is made, Ignatius insists on one crucial step: confirmation. After choosing, continue to observe the fruits in your soul. Does the peace deepen? Does joy expand? If yes, that is confirmation. If unease grows, if the decision feels forced or dry, it might need to be reconsidered. God's will always bears the fruit of deeper peace, even when it demands sacrifice. Let's take an example. Suppose someone is discerning between two career paths, one offering more money and status, the other involving service and a sense of calling. After prayer, both seem good. The person examines both sides, prays for light, imagines the end of life, and sees which choice brings more peace before God. If the second choice fills the heart with quiet joy, even though it demands greater humility, that is usually a sign of grace. This is what Ignatius calls choosing according to the greater good, or the magis. The word means more, not in the sense of quantity or ambition, but in the sense of what more fully expresses love. The true test of any decision is whether it increases our capacity to love God and others. The more you practice this way of discernment, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you begin to recognize the tone of God's voice in every aspect of life, not just in great decisions, but in small daily ones. What should I say in this conversation? How should I spend my time today? Where am I being invited to love more? Saint Ignatius reminds us that God's will is not hidden in mystery, waiting to be discovered like a secret code. It unfolds through faithfulness, through listening, reflection, and courageous action. What matters most is the disposition of the heart, a desire to choose what pleases God, even when it costs us something. At the end of the discernment process, Ignatius suggests one more step. Offer your decision to God and ask Him to confirm it. You might pray, "Lord, I have sought your will with all sincerity. If this choice pleases you, bless it and let it bear fruit. If not, redirect me." This humble surrender allows God to act freely in your life. Discernment, then, is not about control, but cooperation. We do our part, we pray, we reflect, we decide, and then we trust that God will take care of the rest. The peace that follows is not the peace of certainty, but the peace of trust. As you continue your own discernment, ask yourself today, which decisions in my life are waiting for light? What holds me back from choosing? And am I willing to let God guide the process, even if the answer is not what I expected? In the next episode, we will explore what to do after making a choice, how to confirm, live, and grow within God's will once it has been discerned. If this video helped you understand Ignatian discernment more deeply, subscribe to the channel, activate the notifications, and share this with a friend who is facing an important decision. May you always choose what leads you closer to the heart of God.